You've been carrying something that was never yours to hold, a grudge that sits in your chest like dead weight, a memory that flares up when you're alone. Maybe it's years old, maybe it happened last week. Either way, it's costing you more than you realize. I'm not here to preach at you about being nice. This isn't about playing the victim or pretending hurt didn't happen. This is about something far more dangerous to ignore. Unforgiveness is training you to be unreliable. To God, to yourself, to the work He's assigned you. Here's what most men miss. Forgiveness isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a decision you make while the anger is still hot, while the resentment still makes sense, while everyone around you would agree you have the right to stay bitter. But bitterness makes you heavy. And God doesn't entrust weight to men who are already carrying weight they refuse to set down. If you're the kind of man who wants to be trusted with real responsibility, real authority, real purpose, this matters. Because the man who can't forgive is the man who can't move. He's stuck, rehearsing old scripts, fighting battles that already ended. And while he's locked in the past, the present is passing him by. The cost isn't just spiritual, it's practical. Your focus fractures, your patience shortens, your capacity shrinks. You become reactive instead of steady. Resentment doesn't just poison relationships, it poisons discipline. Think about the last time someone wronged you. How much mental real estate did it occupy? How many hours did you spend replaying it, imagining what you should have said, plotting how to protect yourself next time? That's energy, that's attention, that's strength you needed elsewhere. Now multiply that across every unresolved hurt you're holding. You're not just carrying grudges, you're running a background process that's draining your system, and you wonder why you can't stay consistent, why you can't finish what you start, why you snap at people who don't deserve it. It's the weight, the invisible weight of unforgiveness, and it's heavier than you think. God sees this. He sees a man with potential who's chained to the past by his own refusal to release it. And here's the truth that stings. He won't give you the next assignment until you drop the last one. Not because he's punishing you, because you can't carry both. The old weight and the new weight don't fit in the same hands. Try to hold both and you'll drop everything. So let's build a framework, a mini model to clarify what we're dealing with. Forgiveness operates on 3 levels, and most men only think about one. Level 1 is the event, the thing that happened, the betrayal, the insult, the wound. That's the surface. That's what you can name. Your father abandoned you, your ex cheated, your friend betrayed your trust, your boss humiliated you in front of the team. Whatever it is, it's real. It happened. That's level 1. Level 2 is the rehearsal. This is where most men live without realizing it. You're not just remembering the event, you're replaying it. You're running it on loop, building arguments, stacking evidence, convincing yourself daily that you're justified. You replay the conversation, you imagine what you should have said, you build the case for why you're right to stay angry. This happens in the shower, in the car, late at night when you can't sleep. It's constant, and it's exhausting. Level 3 is the cost. This is what the rehearsal does to you over time. It calculates compound interest. Bitterness doesn't stay the same size. It grows, it spreads, it becomes the lens through which you see everything. That rehearsal in your head, it's not neutral, it's training you to be suspicious, to assume the worst, so to protect yourself by closing off, to see threats everywhere. The cost compounds daily, and most men don't even notice until they've become someone they don't recognize. That's the model: event, rehearsal, cost. And here's what's critical: forgiveness doesn't erase the event, but it stops the rehearsal, which means it stops the cost from compounding. Most men think forgiveness is about letting the other person off the hook. It's not. It's about getting yourself off the hook. The hook you've been hanging from while you wait for them to apologize, while you wait for justice, while you wait for them to feel what you felt. But here's the problem. They might never apologize. They might not even remember. They might be living their best life while you're still replaying the offense from 5 years ago, and you're still hanging there. Bleeding energy, losing time, getting nowhere. Forgiveness is you deciding you're done bleeding. Now, before you think this is about being weak or passive, let's get something straight. Forgiveness doesn't mean there are no boundaries. You can forgive someone and still refuse to let them back into your inner circle. You can release bitterness and still acknowledge that what they did was wrong. You can move forward without pretending it never happened. Love doesn't require stupidity. Jesus set boundaries constantly. He loved the Pharisees enough to tell them the truth, but he didn't make them his disciples. He didn't surround himself with people who undermined his mission. He forgave from the cross, and he also flipped tables in the temple. Both can be true. Grace and boundaries, mercy and wisdom. forgiveness and discernment. So when you forgive, you're not saying the offense didn't matter. You're not saying it was okay. You're not inviting them back for round 2. You're saying it doesn't get to run your life anymore. It doesn't get to control your thoughts. It doesn't get to dictate your decisions. It doesn't get to steal your peace. Here's where it gets practical. Right now, as you're listening to this, there's probably a name in your head, a situation, a moment. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Your jaw might have tightened, your chest might feel heavy. That's the Holy Spirit highlighting the thing you've been avoiding. The question isn't whether you have the right to be angry. You probably do. The question is whether you're willing to stay angry, because staying angry is a choice. And every day you make that choice, you're choosing to stay stuck. Let me ask you something. What would change if you let it go tonight? Not in some vague future moment when you finally feel like it. Tonight. What would open up? What energy would be freed? What would become possible? I'll tell you what wouldn't change. The past. It already happened. It's done, it's sealed, but your future, that's still unwritten. And forgiveness is the pen. Forgiveness is what gives you permission to write a new story instead of editing the old one forever. The enemy wants you to believe that forgiveness is weakness, that real men don't let things slide, that holding the grudge makes you strong, that justice means you have to keep the wound open. It's a lie, all of it. Bitterness doesn't make you strong, it makes you brittle. One more offense and you snap. Strength is releasing what you can't control. Strength is trusting God with the justice you think you deserve. Strength is saying, I'm done carrying this, even when no one else understands why. Even when people tell you that you're justified in your anger. Even when the world says you have every right to hold on. Now here's the tension most men feel. You want to forgive, but it feels impossible. The hurt is too deep. The betrayal is too fresh. The wound is still open. You can't just flip a switch. And you're right, you can't. But that's not what I'm asking you to do. Forgiveness isn't a light switch. It's a direction. You don't arrive at forgiveness in a single moment. You walk toward it, step by step, day by day. And some days you'll walk backward. You'll wake up angry again. You'll replay the offense again. And that's okay, because the direction matters more than the pace. What matters is that you keep choosing to walk toward release instead of deeper into resentment. Here's how it works in motion. You wake up, the memory hits, the anger rises, it's automatic. You didn't choose to think about it, it just showed up. And instead of feeding it, instead of rehearsing the old script, you interrupt the pattern. You say out loud, I forgive them. I release this. I'm not carrying it today. And you won't feel it, not at first. It'll feel fake, mechanical, like you're lying to yourself. But you say it anyway, because obedience isn't a feeling, it's a decision. And over time, the repetition rewires you. The neural pathways change. The grip loosens. The weight lifts. But you have to start. You have to take the first step even when you don't feel ready, even when it feels fake. Even when the anger flares back up an hour later and you feel like you failed. You didn't fail. You just have to choose again. And again, and again. This is where most men quit. They try once, feel nothing, assume it didn't work, and go back to the familiar bitterness. They think, I prayed about it, it didn't work, guess I'm just stuck with this. Don't. Forgiveness is a process. It's not instant. It's not one prayer and done. It's daily discipline. It's showing up to the same fight and refusing to pick up the weapon. And here's what you'll notice. The more you release, the lighter you become. The steadier you feel, the clearer your mind gets, the sharper your focus, the stronger your discipline in other areas. It all connects. Because you're not running that background process anymore, you're not bleeding energy into a fight that already ended. You've closed the loop. And now that energy is available for the work God actually called you to, the relationships that matter, the mission that's waiting, the man you're supposed to become. Think about it this way. Every grudge you hold is a tab open in your brain, and just like tabs on your computer, they slow everything down. You might not notice one or two. But when you've got 15 tabs of resentment running in the background, everything lags. Your patience, your focus, your ability to stay present with the people in front of you. Forgiveness is closing the tabs, freeing up the processing power, getting back to full capacity. Let me take you to the core. This is the rule, the mandate, the thing you cannot negotiate. You cannot become a man God trusts while you're holding on to bitterness. You can't. The two don't coexist. Trustworthiness requires a steady heart. Bitterness destabilizes you. It makes you reactive, vengeful, petty, distracted, weak. God is looking for men who can carry weight, real weight, responsibility, authority, influence, leadership, the kind of weight that crushes men who aren't ready. But he will not hand that weight to a man whose hands are already full of old grudges. You want God to trust you? Prove you can trust him. with justice, with timing, with the people who hurt you, with the outcome you think you deserve. Forgiveness is the test. It's not optional. It's not advanced level Christianity for the super spiritual. It's foundational. It's basic training. And if you can't pass this test, you don't move forward. Period. That's the rule. Write it down, memorize it, let it confront you every morning. A man who forgives is a man who can be trusted. Now let's talk about what happens when you actually do this. When you stop waiting to feel like forgiving and you just start the process. When you commit to the direction even when the feelings haven't caught up. 3 things shift. First, your capacity expands. The energy you were spending on resentment becomes available for something else. You sleep better because you're not lying awake rehearsing arguments. You think clearer because your mind isn't cluttered with revenge fantasies. You show up stronger because you're not dragging dead weight everywhere you go. It's not magic. It's mechanics. You freed up resources that were locked in a useless loop. Second, your relationships improve. And I don't just mean with the person who hurt you. That relationship might be done forever, and that's okay. I mean with everyone else. Your wife, your kids, your friends, your coworkers. Because you're not carrying that edge anymore. That defensiveness. That hair trigger sensitivity. That assumption that people are out to get you. You become safer, steadier, easier to be around. People notice. They might not know what changed, but they feel it. Third, your faith deepens. Because forgiveness is trust in action. It's saying, God, I'm letting this go because I believe you're handling it. I believe you see what I can't see. I believe your justice is better than my revenge. I believe you're working even when I don't see it. And when you do that, when you release control and put it in his hands, you experience him in a new way. Not as a concept you learned in church, as a presence you depend on. But here's the catch. Here's what trips most men up. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You need to hear that clearly. You can forgive someone and never speak to them again. You can release bitterness and still maintain distance. You can be at peace and still refuse to let them back in. Love doesn't require proximity. Wisdom sometimes requires separation. Some people are toxic. Some people will hurt you again if you let them. Some people haven't changed and won't change. And wisdom says, I forgive you, but I'm not giving you another shot. I'm not reopening the door. I'm not pretending we're good. That's not unforgiving, that's discernment. That's protecting what God has entrusted to you. Jesus forgave Judas. He knew what Judas would do. He loved him anyway, but he also didn't make him treasurer again after the first incident. He didn't ignore the red flags. He didn't pretend betrayal wasn't betrayal. He forgave and he set boundaries, both at the same time. You can do the same. You can release the bitterness without reopening the relationship. You can pray for their good without inviting them to dinner. You can forgive from a distance. And that's not weakness. That's wisdom. Now let's loop back to something we said earlier. Remember the 3 levels: event, rehearsal, cost. You can't change the event. It happened. It's history. But you can stop the rehearsal. And when you stop the rehearsal, the cost stops compounding. This is where the real work happens, not in some big dramatic moment of release where you feel a wave of peace and everything's resolved. That might happen, but more often, it doesn't. More often, it's in the small, daily interruptions. Every time you catch yourself replaying the offense, you interrupt it. You redirect. You choose a different script. Picture it like this. You're driving. A song comes on that reminds you of them. Immediately, your mind goes to the offense, starts replaying the scene, building the case. And right there, in that moment, you have a choice. You can let the rehearsal run, or you can interrupt it. I forgive them. I release this. I'm not carrying it today. It feels mechanical at first, like you're reading lines you don't believe. But you're not lying to yourself. You're training yourself. You're rewiring your default response. You're building a new neural pathway. And over time, with repetition, the new pattern becomes automatic. The old loop loses its power. This is discipline as worship. This is obedience in motion. This is how a man becomes trustworthy, not by waiting for the right feelings, but by doing the right thing before the feelings catch up. Not by being perfect, but by being persistent. Not by never falling back into anger, but by always choosing to walk back toward forgiveness. And God sees that. He sees the man who chooses forgiveness when it still hurts, who releases bitterness when it still makes sense to hold on, who trusts him with justice when every instinct screams for revenge, who keeps showing up to the fight even when progress feels invisible. That's the man he can trust with more. That's the man who's being trained. That's the man who's ready for the real weight. So here's where we land. Forgiveness isn't about them. It never was. It's about you. It's about who you're becoming. It's about whether you're willing to be trained by pressure or poisoned by it, Whether you're willing to let God use even the worst moments to shape you into something stronger, God is using everything, even the betrayals, even the wounds, even the moments that nearly broke you. He's using them to shape you into the kind of man who can carry real weight, real responsibility, real authority. But only if you let him. Only if you stop clinging to the bitterness and start walking toward release. Only if you trust that his plan for you is bigger than your plan for revenge. You were never meant to carry this. You were meant to lay it down, at his feet, in his hands, and walk away lighter, freer, ready for what's next. That's the reframe. The offense happened, the hurt was real, the damage was done, but it doesn't get to define you. It doesn't get to limit you. It doesn't get to stop you from becoming who God called you to be. It doesn't get the final word on your story. You're being trained, not punished, trained. And this is part of the training. The hard part. The part that separates the men from the boys. The part most men fail because they're not willing to do the work when it doesn't feel good. But not you. Not anymore. Here's your protocol. 7 days, 1 decision per day. Morning and night. This is concrete. This is actionable. This is how you start. Day 1, name it. Get specific. Write down the offense. The person, the hurt. Don't edit. Don't soften it. Don't try to make it sound spiritual. Just name it. Be honest. This happened. It hurt. This is what I'm carrying. Put it on paper. Make it real. Day 2, speak it out loud. In your car, in your room, somewhere private. I forgive name. I release this to God. Say their name. Say the words. Out loud. Not in your head. Out loud. There's power in speaking it. It makes it real. It breaks the silence you've been keeping. Day 3, repeat. Day 2, same words, out loud, same person, same declaration, even if it feels empty, even if you don't believe it yet, even if the anger is still hot. Say it anyway. You're not waiting for the feelings. You're creating the feelings through repetition. Day 4, interrupt the rehearsal every time it starts. This is active work, all day long. Every time your mind goes to the offense, every time you start replaying it, you interrupt. Out loud if you can, in your head if you have to. I forgive them, I release this, I'm not going there. Then redirect to something else. A prayer, a task, anything, but don't let the rehearsal run. Day 5, pray for them. Not for their destruction, not for karma, not for them to feel what you felt, for their good, for their healing, for their growth. This will hurt. This will feel impossible. Do it anyway. God bless them, help them, lead them. Short, simple, honest. This is where the real breakthrough happens. Day 6, thank God for what this taught you. Find one thing, one piece of growth, one way you're stronger because of it. One lesson you learned, one pattern you broke, one way God used it for good even though it was meant for harm. Write it down. Make it concrete. Day 7, make the declaration out loud with authority. I am free. This no longer defines me. I am not who I was. I am not what they did to me. I am a man God can trust. I am moving forward. Then start again if you need to. Week 2, week 3, however long it takes. This isn't one and done. This is a practice, a discipline. A rhythm you build into your life until it becomes part of who you are. And if you do this, if you actually commit to the process instead of just reading about it, something will shift. You'll feel it, not immediately, but soon. A lightness, a steadiness, a new kind of strength. The tabs will close, the background noise will quiet, the weight will lift. That's forgiveness working. That's you becoming the kind of man God can trust. That's transformation in motion. So stop waiting, stop negotiating. Stop rehearsing the old script. You know what you need to release. You know the name. You know the offense. You know the weight you're carrying. Let it go. Tonight. Not because they deserve it. Because you do. You deserve to be free. You deserve to move forward. You deserve peace. You deserve to become the man you were created to be. And that man doesn't carry grudges. He carries purpose. He carries weight. He carries the kind of authority that only comes from a steady heart. The kind of influence that only comes from a man who's been tested and proved trustworthy. Forgiveness is how you get there. Forgiveness is the path, the test, the training ground. Will you pass? Comment no more. If you're done carrying what was never yours to hold, start the protocol tonight. 7 days. 1 decision at a time. No more waiting, no more rehearsing, no more bleeding. God is waiting to trust you with more. Real weight, real responsibility, real authority. But first, you have to prove you can let go of less. You have to show him you're willing to release what you can't control and trust him with what you can't fix. The question isn't whether you can forgive. The question is whether you will, because you can. You already have everything you need. The Holy Spirit is with you, strengthening you, guiding you, transforming you. giving you the power to do what feels impossible. You don't do this alone. You were never meant to. But you do have to start. You have to take the first step, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, even when you don't feel ready, even when the anger is still fresh. That's where the training happens. That's where boys become men. That's where God shapes you into someone he can trust with the weight that's coming, the assignment that's waiting, the purpose you were created for. So drop the grudge, pick up the purpose, and start walking. You're being trained.